Хочу подякувати організаторам цього чудового заходу.
First of all, Mr. Victor is really grateful to our... Oh, sorry. Sorry. Relaxation. First of all, hello everyone. Mr. Victor just says thank you with all his soul and heart for those who organized this marvelous event and invited us here.
А для нас, українців, зараз дуже важливо донести свій голос до світової спільноти в часі, власне, повномасштабної війни з Росією.
Nowadays, for all Ukrainian community, is next to important to voice what is going on, and as the conference is connected with the spiritual heritage, what is going on with monuments in Ukraine.
Тому я свою презентацію побудував з двох блоків.
That's why his speech is divided into two parts.
Перший, оскільки я маю честь представляти також, крім фонду Підгорецький замок і Львівську національну галерею мистецтв.
Victor is the representative, not only here a founder of a charitable foundation. Also, he presents Lviv National Art Gallery. It is the biggest art gallery in the western part of our country.
Тому моя презентація полягає в представленні діяльності Львівської національної галереї, власне, в часі повномасштабної війни, яка в Україні, мало хто знає, в Європі, триває вже з 2014 року.
Actually, he wants to indicate that the war is going on and it started in 2014. And he wants to pay the attention on how two parts of the country are interconnected in the struggle for preservation of our national heritage.
Тому я розбиваю на два блоки. Блок до другої активної фази 22-го року, коли відбувалося брутальне вторгнення в територію України, і діяльність галереї до 22-го року.
He's going to speak about the activities which had been provided before 2020, February 2020 is the time of the beginning of the war, and what is going on now.
Тому я починаю презентацію. Ось, власне, Львівська національна галерея включає в себе 18 об'єктів.
Actually, the amount and the volume of what he presents is depicted in the slide. So you can see that the general square is 39 hectares. It's just really big. The whole object. And also it includes 18 museums with 4 real castles and 2 palaces.
Це, мабуть, одна з найбагатших музейних інституцій в Східній Європі, як по кількості архітектурних об'єктів, так і по своїй колекції.
Actually, it is considered to be one of the richest gallery in terms of both the exhibits themselves and the quality of the exhibits. Quantity, 65,000.
Це, власне, представлені наші об'єкти, які, власне, складають перлину архітектурної спадщини України і Європи.
Actually, on this slide you have just the brief list of all the objects, and he hopes that they are available in presentations that you get just during our conference.
І, власне, з 2014 року у нас почалася активна реставрація, незважаючи на те, що це якраз почалася війна з Росією. Нам вдалося почати реставрацію наших основних об'єктів.
In spite of the fact that the invasion of Russia really started in 2014, they started at the same period of time active works of restorations.
Як не дивно, парадоксально, сама активна фаза припала на 21 рік, і нам вдалося буквально перед війною відреставрувати наші основні об'єкти. Це костел в Підгірцях і наше найбільше фондосховище – це монастир Капуцинів.
He says that they had managed to restore two of the most important objects. One is the church and the castle of Podgirci itself. And this is, just pay attention to the size of it. This is the monastery of Capucin in Alesko. It's just really big, and all this had been done before 2022.
Це, власне, якраз представлена коротко наша колекція музейна, це в Палаці Лозинських.
So this is a new exposition in Lazinsky Palace. Also, it includes the Museum of Modernism.
Ну і наша перлина – це колекція Пінзля, скульптури видатного скульптора періоду бароко, який творив і жив у Львові в 18 столітті.
This is the pearl of their collection, the artworks of Pinzel, who worked in the 17th century.
У нас активно також проводиться реставрація музейних збірок.
So you can see that the restoration works are always in process in spite of the war.
А ведеться також робота по розробці проєкту для нового фондосховища галереї.
They are thinking, and now it's in work, about the new storage for exhibits. It's on a project stage, but still everything is in process.
Власне, це унікальний такий проєкт, який дозволить вписати сучасну архітектуру архітектурну пам'ятку.
The main concept again is to combine the past, the present and the future to attract more tourists.
Оце, як я вже говорив, наші основні архітектурні об'єкти – це 4 замки.
Marvelous presentation of 4 palaces which are included in this conservation project.
А також об'єкти наші – це синагога, церква Святого Духа, яка, власне, перебуває під захистом ЮНЕСКО.
Also to this unique project, they have added the cult objects. And if you can see, they are of different confessions. Catholic Church, Jewish, and Orthodox churches as well. So not all of them are really presented here.
Це також ревізація одного з найдавніших гетьманських заїздів.
This is a residence for Hetman, who were just the heads of military troops.
Буквально в січні місяці 22-го року перед війною почалася розробка проєкту реставрації і ревіталізації Підгорецького замку.
Also they have decoration as a jewelry, the parks, and you can see 2 of them, Italian Park in Podgirci and Castle Park in Zhovkva. Or is it Royal Park because you don't have?
Yes. Музей активно використовує нові технології, я не буду на цьому зупинятися. Інклюзія музеї і оцифрування колекції. І от переходимо до другого блоку, це, власне, проблеми, які виникли в процесі, власне, активної цієї фази війни.
Yeah, as for the phases of digitalization, he thinks that you are pretty aware of it and we can omit it. And now he starts the second part of his speech, which mostly touches the problems we face during this unique experience of preservation during the war times.
Власне, з перших днів війни наша галерея, колектив почав активно займатися питанням збереження, евакуації, а також прийняття музейних колекцій з інших музеїв зі Сходу і Півдня України.
So when everything started, they faced a few problems. One is how to protect, another is to accept, because they started the evacuation of historical heritage from the east of Ukraine. So they were working on both sides, and you can easily see it on pictures.
Тут, до речі, цікавий момент, власне, колекції, які приїхали до нас з Одеси, а під час перевезення в наші фондосховища в коробках було знайдено, власне, такий трекер, власне, тому що, в принципі, хтось хотів дуже знати, куди колекція буде перевезена.
A very interesting fact, which he says, mentions about one of the museums of Odessa. You can see this coin with just like apple. They understood that it's a kind of a tracker. So someone was aware that exhibits would be transported, and they wanted to see the route where the exhibits from Odessa Museum would go. So they understand that everything had been prepared before.
Ну, власне, питання обезпечення наших об'єктів від обстрілів і руйнації.
So you can see the classical methods of keeping from damage. Sandbags.
Ну, це, власне, якраз той факт, що доказує, що російське вторгнення – це є культурна війна за своєю суттю. В принципі, Росія поставила на щит за свою ціль – це позначити Україну як націю.
What you see are the numbers about the cultural objects which are being destroyed. Because you understand that data become new and they renew each day. So it's not the exact number or what is going on. And it is a proof that it is the war for identity, for remaining on this earth like a separate nation with its own spirit and ideas.
А на сьогоднішній день вже Міністерство культури України об'явило про те, що в часі цієї війни, це актуальні дані, буквально на початок травня, знищено або пошкоджено близько 1500 культурних об'єктів.
The actual number, the beginning of May, as he says, and it's not mentioned here, is more than 1,500 objects, cultural objects.
І це, звичайно, знамениті колекції, знані колекції, знані музеї.
The things that were stolen are mostly from famous museums, famous names, prominent names, so perhaps we will never see them again.
Оце, власне, якраз приклади цих руйнацій.
So you can see before and after what is going on. This is the church of St. Andrew, just.
Це, власне, якраз фіксація, оскільки зараз в Україні створена спеціальна комісія по фіксації цих руйнацій і викрадень культурної спадщини. Власне, це якраз зафіксовані приклади
What you can see is
викрадення музейних цінностей.
Photos from CCTV cameras. So now we have a special committee which is responsible for fixing the facts. This is like Mariupol, but there are a lot of more. And those who understand what the art is, it's Ivazovsky, Kuinji, Kherson. So they took something which is the world heritage, not even ours.
Після повідомлень про пограбування скіфських артефактів російськими військами, цікавий момент, міністр культури Греції Ліна Мендоні назвала пограбування огидним і варварським. І порівняла це з злочинами Другої світової війни, викрадення скарбу прямо з розкопок Шлімана, які вивезені були в Росію і, в принципі, з цього часу в Грецію не повернулися.
Actually, as I'm interpreting, Europeans are very tolerant and diplomatic, and they do not call the things they are until there are proofs, the evidence. But even the Greek minister, when she saw how the Skiffs artifacts had been stolen, she confessed that it can be compared to barbarians during the Roman times. And also she compared it with stealing national heritage from Troya. When Schliemann discovered it on the territory of Turkey, there was a kind of an occasion which was similar. So now I think you see the real face and just the real reflection of events, what is going on.
Але в часі, знову ж таки, цієї активної фази ми знайшли можливість все-таки оберігати, не тільки фізично оберігати, але також і проводити реставраційні роботи з збереження культурних, архітектурних об'єктів.
But we want to tell you that no matter how hard it is, I mean, just the sadness of losing something, people are continuing and they are in process of work. So we still have restoration works in progress. Everything is going on. No one has stopped.
Так як вже заявила наша моя колега пані Неля Коковальська, всі музейники консолідувалися в контексті допомоги один одному в ті важкі часи. Особливо, власне, ми на Західній Україні стали своєрідним теж хабом таким по прийняттю і передачі гуманітарної допомоги від наших колег з рідних країн. Тому я вдячний присутнім тут представникам з Польщі, з Великобританії і з інших країн, які, власне, активно нам допомагали і допомагають в цей важкий час.
And here is a true story of friendship from Europeans. So in these difficult times, as Pani Nelia had mentioned, Saint Sophia was the hub, but mostly for central Ukraine. His part of historical restorations became a hub for the west of Ukraine. And really just no words to express the words of thanks to Polish, British partners and other European countries.
А ця допомога міжнародна також полягає в тому, що низка музеїв західних країн надали свою допомогу в розміщенні наших культурних об'єктів. Оскільки, як ви побачите в кінці презентації на фільмі, що ракети падають непрогнозовано і навіть ми в Західній Україні не обезпечені від, скажімо, руйнацій.
Victor and just his object, they are situated in the western part of Ukraine. But you can't avoid the rocket. And what is going on, like interaction with Western partners, is that they took a lot of nice exhibits to show them in Europe and to preserve them. So all in all, some amount of things is given to the West to keep it safe, because we don't know how long it would be and what will happen, and if the things will be in good condition after the war.
Зараз колекція наша розпорошена в країнах Балтії, Центральної Європи, в Італії. От зараз представники з з Вавеля, власне, на Вавелі зараз експонується наша унікальна колекція Іоанна Пінзля.
Here on slide you can see the countries where the exhibits are distributed. Mostly Baltic region, Poland, in Italy you have in Padua now just going on exhibition. Latvia it's Baltic region.
Ну і, власне, це активна наша діяльність в часі війни була відзначена буквально місяць тому визначеною нагородою для культурних інституцій. Власне, цей захід відбувся в Варшаві, в Королівському замку Варшави. Власне, це нагорода Олександра Гейштора.
Victor is very proud to say that they were admitted by some award in Poland, which has the value in the world of museums, and no words to say how important it is to have such a support in such time.
Ну, і в принципі, я закінчу свою презентацію. Зараз можна буде переглянути ще короткий фільм якраз про ці події, які у нас відбувалися зараз впродовж цього року. І всім дякую за увагу.
Victor says that it's the end of the presentation, but he also wants to keep your attention 3 minutes more. It's a very, very short video, which just summarizes what he has just said. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This
UNESCO has defined tangible heritage as physical artifacts produced, maintained, and transmitted intergenerationally in society, and intangible as traditions or living expressions inherited from our ancestors and passed to our descendants. In 2003, UNESCO published a list of domains under which a country could categorize its different intangible heritage. Organized religions are currently not enlisted under a specific domain. Religious traditions and spirituality are generally categorized under this domain. Knowledge and practices concerning nature and the universe, I love the concept of the universe, or under this domain, social practices, ritual, and festive events. Now, whilst the Catholic Church has manifestly identified its tangible cultural heritage, It has not officially defined what constitutes intangible cultural heritage. Some Christian organizations, however, have defined intangible heritage as language of popular piety conveyed through pious exercise and popular devotions. Now, you're all probably very familiar with the Burra Charter, first published in 1979. In 2013, the chapter was revised to include the notions of tangible and intangible heritage, but it defined it in a slightly different way from UNESCO. The Burra Charter states that cultural heritage must be conserved for present and future generations in accordance with the principle of intergenerational equity. Now, this principle holds that to promote prosperity and quality of life for everyone, institutions need to balance the short-term needs of today's generation with the longer-term needs of future generations. The Burra Charter also adds that in terms of conservation of tangible and intangible heritage, it should be undertaken without unwarranted emphasis on any one value at the expense of the other. So how does a hands-on conservator-restorer working on site deal with these definitions? The first thing to remember is that regardless whether a country or institution has specifically categorized its intangible heritage in a domain, the hands-on conservator and restorer is always expected to consider the effects that working on tangible heritage has on their intangible heritage. And always remember that big results are the consequences of small decisions. For the hands-on conservator restorer, addressing tangible and intangible heritage can at times lead to very complicated dichotomies. And this is what I'm going to talk about. The dichotomies we encounter when you're trying to apply manually the dictates of UNESCO. Now, this is especially true when hands-on professionals operate in countries that do not share their cultural and religious traditions, or when international teams of conservators and restorers from diverse heritage backgrounds attempt to share a project. How can the on-site professionals handle the perils of clumsily offending the dictates of that same heritage that they're trained to preserve? It is undeniable that understanding intangible heritage when it involves aspects of one's own culture is a natural and almost obvious process that rarely poses a hindrance to the positive outcomes of treating tangible artifacts. Difficulties seem to appear when the culture involved is foreign and the religious traditions unfamiliar, at times even antagonistic to the operator's social values. And this is now I'm going to take you to Burma, where we worked in a site where we encountered huge dichotomies linked with tangible and intangible heritage. So first of all, very quickly, Burma, as you probably know, is in Southeast Asia. It's next to Thailand, China, and India. Bagan, which is the area where we worked in a Buddhist temple, is located in central Burma. You can see it there where the little red circle is. And it sits along the banks of the beautiful Irrawaddy River. Burma is the most religious Buddhist country worldwide, with 90% of the population practicing a form of Buddhism called Theravada Buddhism. Theravada Buddhism predates the Pagan Empire, which was constituted by the Anawartha king in the 11th century. At the time, Bagan became a strong spiritual hub where Buddhist traditions and Hindu traditions and native animist traditions all lived happily together in the same space. At the time, Bagan had around 10,000 religious buildings in a very small land space. Today, there are about 3,500 buildings in approximately 16 square meters. square miles, excuse me. In 2016, a 6.8 magnitude earthquake struck the region, damaging around 185 ancient buildings. In the aftermath of this earthquake, various international institutes undertook a series of assessments and preliminary reports aimed at preserving the site. One of these institutes was the Tokyo National Research Institute of Japan, who together with the Ministry of Culture in Burma and the local archaeology department assembled a group of restorers and conservators to do a pilot project in a very small little temple called Lokatipepan Temple. This pilot project, together with a series of other projects undertaken by other international institutions, became part of the application that the Burmese government did to UNESCO for the recognition of World Heritage Sites. In 2019, this status was granted to the area of Pagan. So this is our lovely little temple of Lokatipepan, which in Burmese, as you can see written there, translates literally as adoring the world from above. This temple houses some of the oldest wall paintings in the archaeological zone of Pagan. They date between 1113 and 1125 AD, and the painted cycle inside the temple shows scenes of the life of the Buddha Gautama, and the entire temple originally was painted with these lovely tiny little scenes of the Buddha, the ceiling included. This slide that you see is the southern wall, which is the wall we worked in. We have digitally removed the Buddha just because we need to be able to do all the mapping properly, but we didn't physically move the Buddha, and he was still there. So when you enter into this temple, the first thing you see is this colossal gilded statue of the Gautama Buddha. He sits with his left hand touching the ground, which is a gesture that represents the moment of spiritual enlightenment. In the 1950s, the wall paintings were studied and first published by two art historians, a Frenchman and a man from Burma. And in the opening of the book, the French art historian describes his experience of walking into this temple, and he says that it was a gradual dimming from tropic sunlight to religious dusk. So the temple was left untouched until the 20th century, when the first restorations that were done by the British in the 1930s, and you can see the black and white pictures of the temple before and after the reparations of the British. Further reparations were done in the 70s by the Burmese government, and in 1997, the Burmese military reconstructed many elements, and you can see the photograph to the right, that the crown on top of the portal and the pinnacles on top of the temple are reconstructions done by the Burmese military. In 1993, there was a huge inventory done of all the buildings in Pagan by Pierre Pichard, and obviously the Lokatipepan temple is included in this document. And in 1993, ICROM did the first restoration of the wall paintings inside the temple, and they did it together with local Burmese, and this is a photograph of the restoration team of the time and of the temple at the time. The team of conservators and restorers who undertook the Lokatipepan project between 2016 and 2019 consisted of an international group made up of Japanese, Italian, Spanish, and Irish conservators. Scientific investigations were undertaken by the Japanese Institute and by the Università di Urbino. On site, we also had help from two local Burmese conservators from the Department of Archaeology. To the left, you can see Mr. Rea, who only stayed with us for the first mission. He then left us for another temple that was being restored. But Amy Zon, who you see to the right, was with us in every single mission, and we did a total of 8 missions. So what were the problems we encountered? Well, the first problem was linked with health and safety standards as we understand them here. Burmese scaffoldings are traditionally built out of bamboo and twine, and we have an example here of a temple right next to ours with a typical Burmese scaffolding made out of bamboo. Sometimes these scaffoldings are huge, as you can see here. Now, the Burmese scaffoldings are robust and safe structures. The people that build them really understand the technique, they understand the materials, they know the limits. So it wasn't the scaffolding in itself that created an issue. It was the religious tradition of being without shoes on the scaffolding that created a problem to the team. So the religious tradition of showing respect in places of worship by removing one's shoes is a strongly felt Burmese belief. There have been cases where tourists have been arrested and put in jail because they refused to take their shoes off. Now, our team tried to work on the scaffolding for 1 week barefooted, but we could not do it. I mean, our feet were cut up, full of little sores. We simply could not do it. We requested a temporary exemption from the religious bodies, but initially they said no. So how did we resolve the idea? Our Japanese colleague came up with a brilliant idea, and that was to propose the use of religious tabi Japanese shoes, which is a type of footwear you wear in religious temples in Japan, which are these. And the Burmese monks said, we will accept this proposition as long as the shoes are blessed in Japan by a Japanese monk from another traditional Buddhist belief, which are called Mahayana Buddhism, I think. So the shoes had to be blessed by the Japanese monk for the use of Christian females in a Burmese Buddhist temple. So I don't think any resort will have shoes as blessed as the ones we had. But at least we resolved the problem temporarily, because soon after this, we encountered a very big problem, and one which was very difficult to resolve. Buddhist doctrine forbids females from being raised above the head of Buddha. As you can see in the scaffolding reaches the head of Buddha and then stops. The scaffolding men and the monks refused to allow us to build the scaffolding to be able to access the entire wall. This was a big problem. You can understand that if we can't access the entire wall, we cannot do our job according to international standards. It must be added also that the only male team member we had was working in another site, which meant he couldn't dedicate time to Lokatipepan, and it meant that the entire team was female, and we could not access the top section of the wall painting. The dichotomy was clear. In trying to respect the intangible aspects of the project, the tangible aspects were potentially endangered. How to resolve this impasse? I'd like to remind you what the Burra Charter told us, that we have to conserve without unwarranted emphasis in any one value at the expense to the other. Very difficult to achieve here. Now, the other international teams that were working in the area gave us advice, and the advice was that in addressing the issue to the religious bodies, we were not to discuss religious doctrine, but rather use the concept of spirituality as a sign of respect for all religions. And we did, but that did not work. Our requests kept on being denied. Now, we did resolve the problem, but before I tell you how we resolved it, I have to tell you about Father Giuseppe Romani. Now, Father Romani took care of a small little Roman Catholic church in the outskirts of Florence. His lifelong interest for his parish made him an integral part of a years-long project that involved restoring the splendid Baroque ceiling you see here in this photograph. Father Romani had a problem with the word spirituality. In a restoration project that I wrote where I used the word spirituality, he noted this on the margin, and Padre Romani would scribble all over my reports. He wrote, if by spirituality you mean your personal belief, I'd argue that society will never evolve into a thriving community. In fact, it might just evolve into a chaotic grouping of personal ideas. He then added under that, the singular might have value, but the plural is invaluable. Father Romani had a problem with this site because the figure of La Madonna, which is painted above the altar, was missing half of her face. And no matter how much the Florentine superintendency and the conservators explained to him that we could not repaint the Madonna's face because that would constitute falsifying the wall painting, Father Romani, with a lot of temper and a lot of anger, huffing around the church, kept on insisting that if we left the Madonna broken, he always used this word, she's broken, if we left her broken, we would be disrespecting the parishioners, and that he had to defend the parishioners and the Madonna. Like all the restorers in this room know, we found a compromise. I won't go into the details of that now because we don't have much time. But we found a compromise that kept everyone happy, which is the best quality restorers have. We're always compromising. But Father Romani, again, in another report, wrote this over my work. If you cannot see the key features of that which symbolizes the meaning, how can you embrace the meaning? Now, these words of Father Romani became the key that allowed us to unlock the problem of the Buddhist monks in Burma. And here we have Padre Romani and my Buddha, and I think they look quite similar.
Yes.
So, back to Burma. While all the Burmese administrative and religious representatives were discussing the problem of the female team accessing the top section of the scaffolding, I noticed a very big incongruency. Now, to the Buddhist population, the wall paintings were not as sacred as the Buddha. That was very clear to us. It therefore dawned on me that maybe the inflexibility we were facing had nothing to do with religious doctrine or spirituality, and much to do with the fact that so much attention was being paid to the wall behind the Buddha, while the Buddha was full of dust, looked filthy, looked unkept, and was not at all considered in the project. Again, Cynthia, the gold in Malta has a strong symbolic meaning. It has it all over, I think, the Western world. It has a strong symbolic religious meaning in the whole of Asia too. So that's an interesting common denominator. So what did we do? The whole female team decided to speak to one of the monks, and we asked him if we could clean the Buddha. And we told him we would do this without monetary retribution and that we would do it with our free time. Our request was accepted with delight, and official permission was granted that same day, which left the team really perplexed, because in order to clean the Buddha, we had to climb all over the Buddha and step all over him, and we had to touch his head, which is a total sign of disrespect in Burma, regardless of gender. And yet they said, yes, off you go, jump over the Buddha and clean him. And that's exactly what we did. It took 2 weeks of constant work to clean the Buddha, an act that we did with love and dedication. We added new flowers to the altar, new offerings, we purchased new lights, we changed the old red rug that sits in front of the Buddha where people kneel down to pray, and bought a new one. And what happened? That we were granted the permission temporarily to be raised above the head of Buddha. Now, a couple of years after this event, a monk came to visit us, a Buddhist monk, and I asked him, why was it that we were granted this permission? And he answered with one word: merit. Now, merit in the Buddhist tradition is, amongst other things, the act of seeing, the act of giving, and the act of showing respect. Words that hold a universal meaning to all cultures and religions, and that would undoubtedly find Father Romani in full agreement. The team faced other dilemmas. I'm not going to go into detail about them. Some of the problems we encountered were purely technical, others were still religious. Yet through the common understanding that cultural values can at times be expressed in ways that we might not fully understand. However, it is key to remember that those values are always linked by a common truth that knows no boundaries. Unfortunately, on-site work at Lokatipepan was abruptly halted by the COVID-19 pandemic and subsequently granted a pending status due to a strong political unrest in that area. The hope of all team members is that of a soon return and the possibility of concluding the project so that the beautiful temple of Lokatipepan may continue adoring the world from above. And to conclude, I'd just like to leave you with a thought, and that is that as the profession of conservator restorer of cultural heritage continues to evolve and mature in its steady embrace of academia, some might argue that vital philosophical and humanistic considerations are slowly fading out of the academic curricula. The scientific approach to our profession is undoubtedly essential to avoid certain pitfalls. Nevertheless, it is my strong belief that scientific rigor alone will never be enough to preserve cultural and religious expressions. And to that point, I would like to leave you with this thought. If beauty, the ultimate quest in the arts, is the attempt to express what reason cannot fathom, surely the legacy of our ancestors enshrined in beauty can only be preserved if the meaning within is universally respected. And to quote Father Romani, the singular might be valuable, but the plural is invaluable. Thank you very much for your attention.
Being the first to introduce this conference on European cathedrals. You have seen me the first one on the podium, and I'm going to be the last one to talk in this conference. And to talk the first one is easier because you come with a prepared text upon which you have reflected for hours, if not for days. But to come for the conclusion, it's much easier. It's much more difficult because it's not that easy to synthesize such a myriad of cases and ideas and richness of presentations. The conference, I think, has indeed reached its purpose of bringing you together to reflect on such an important theme on spirituality and conservation. But I'm trying to dare, I would say, or attempt to synthesize the myriad of ideas, the richness of ideas, by trying to present a metaphor to what life is, and the life of the restorer, the life of the conservator. In life and in philosophy, there are many metaphors how to explain and to describe and depict life. But one of the metaphors and images which is appealing to me is the metaphor of a journey, because life is indeed a journey. And when we talk about a journey, that means that it is a process. Life is dynamic, not static. It means that there is the opportunities and challenges to grow, to mature, to develop, to increase in knowledge, to meet others, to broaden your vision, your skills. This is life. Life is a journey. But since life is a journey, as sometimes we engage and decide to go for a journey, literally a journey, we know that there are many pitfalls, many risks in a journey, every type of journey. And even, I think, the journey of the restorer, the journey of the conservator, the journey of anyone who is responsible and custodian and curator of artistic patrimony, we have to be very cautious, and we need a roadmap. We need GPS in order to avoid pitfalls. In life, we find many dangers, many pitfalls. And I would like to conclude by giving you what I think are the pitfalls of restoration, conservation, when it is secluded from spirituality. So I think this is my reflections of a series of considerations, attitudes, which can be defined as the beyonds. What are those issues which we have to go the beyond? The first thing is that we have to go beyond dualism. What do I mean by dualism? In philosophy, this has been a constant challenge, starting with Platonism, who divided the spirit from the body and defined the human person as an imprisoned spirit in a body, revived later on by Descartes and the Cartesian philosophy, which had a lot of impact on the scientific models, but also in conservation and restoration. I think there is a pitfall that we adopt a dualistic approach. And this dualism means that we give priority, we focus on materiality and forget, neglect, become oblivious of the spiritual aspect of artistic objects. I think that it's very important that the holistic approach which sees things, it was the philosopher Aristotle who went beyond the Platonism of his master, which is still very important in every sector of learning. The realism of life. To be realistic in life means to be grounded on earth, and to have a holistic experience. And the holistic experience of the restorer, the conservator, the curator, who is in charge of patrimony, must see not only the physical, the tangible, must have also sensitivity, I would say, to the intangible. And this is, I think, very, very important in order to avoid the pitfall of dualism. And this is what makes a restorer, conservator, a professional person. Because to profession and to be a good professional means to achieve your aim. And to achieve your aim means to see artistic objects holistically rather than separately, and you see things in a separate way. The second way of going beyond dualism, beyond reductionism. The reductionist person means that has a narrow-minded approach, that he is a slave of the segmentation of knowledge. And this is obviously the result of the scientific method, where you see things only from the eyes of science. One of the phrases, philosophical phrases, which I think we need to keep in mind is that the whole is greater than its parts. The one who has a myopic vision, that means seeing only what is here and forgets that which is beyond, hidden, that which cannot be felt. I think that is the great mistake we can do in life. And in order to avoid the pitfall of reductionism, we need to broaden our perspective. And this was precisely the purpose of this conference, to share our ideas, our experiences, to go back home with a broader vision, with the conviction that the whole is greater than the part. The part could be your vision, your opinion, your school of thinking. And we came here just to contrast and challenge our way of thinking. In this way, to go beyond, I think, reductionism, we need to adopt the Hegelian approach. Hegel is the person who spoke about the not pantheism, but panentheism. Pantheism, where you see everything as an expression and equation of spirit. Whereas panentheism means that you see reality as an expression of a spirit broader and bigger than the reality which I'm seeing. And I think a good restorer, a good conservator, a good curator must have this way of seeing things in a Hegelian way. That means being panentheist, that I am sensitive also to the spirit of relationships, of life, of nature. In our case, the spirit in artistic objects. And this is very important to go beyond the reductionism, is to contextualize what we have, the objects, artifacts, fabrics, church complexes, temple complexes within a community. It's not my fate, my vision, as we heard in the last presentation, but our vision. Because the strength of the restorer is to contextualize the priceless objects of art in the spirituality of the community. Spirituality does not mean Christianity, does not mean I'm happy that the last presentation was on Buddhism, because we are talking in a spirituality in a broader perspective. Even spirituality which does not have any religious connotation, that is also spirituality. The third, beyond, so beyond the question of dualism, beyond reductionism, beyond technologization. Technology in today's culture is the solution how to resolve everything. We resolve everything through artificial intelligence, algorithm, and so many other things which science seems, which is creating the problem. And then we try to solve problem through science. And this is the technologization, the technocratic paradigm. Today and yesterday, we have reflected together that technology is not only the solution. We need technology, we need cutting-edge technology to be more professional in the analysis, in the laboratory techniques, but this is not enough. We must go beyond the technocratic paradigm. The last beyond is beyond secularism, because a culture which is fixed only to the here and now is a culture which is missing something which is very important. Missing the importance of faith, the importance of linking life through a meaning. And the meaning of life is always attached to a reality or an experience greater than the one we are undergoing. And I think majority of us are working in cathedrals, in chapels, in monasteries. These are the presentations we have heard. Faith is not that which hinders the restorer, but that which broadens the horizon, which enriches the horizon of the restorer and also the conservator. This is the roadmap, this is the golden rule, and this is the takeaway with us. If someone would ask me, what have you learned from this conference? What is the takeaway with you in your pocket, in your mind after this conference? And I would answer myself that I learned the beyonds in our journey in order to preserve what we have inherited by the past, conserve it and preserve it, and pass it on to future generations. As we heard also this morning, the first presentation, conservation itself is a plea, is a spiritual act. It is a belief in that which is higher, the immortality of artistic objects. I would like to bring these two ideas, the beyond, with an experience we had at St. John's Co-Cathedral. Last Friday, we inaugurated 16 years of restoration project with the tapestries, Flemish tapestries, 29 pieces, which Cynthia has been very much involved from the beginning to end, contacting with the Witt Laboratory in Mechelen in Belgium, and we hung them last Friday, and it was inauguration by church authorities and the state with features. On Sunday we had an open day, and in just 3 hours 7,000 came. People want to come, discuss, the media is flooded with that, and there is a big revival, something which has been almost lost, went to oblivion. They did not see the value of it, but restoration has brought out its value. Not only its artistic and cultural values were brought for the first time at St. John's Co-Cathedral in 1707, but it brought out also the importance of their spirituality, because the tapestries is an expression of spirituality, of faith. It is a narrative experience of episodes from the life of Jesus, and 6 of them, it's the expression of faith and experience of their own time, the Counter-Reformation. So that's why the glory of the Eucharist, the glory of authority, the glory of charity, of the destruction of heresy, they are all depicted there, which show precisely the spirituality of an epoch, which has been transmitted to us. In order to explain this experience, we have gone beyond the dualism. We were not only interested in the artistic, historical, and cultural value, but we communicated to the people, and in our addresses, this spiritual value. We went beyond the technological aspect. We went beyond all the things I refer to, when last Friday was indeed a celebration of conservation, but it was a celebration of spirituality. Now we have a short video to show you the experience we had on Friday.
Min jidħol hawn daħal fi knisja. Dan huwa tempju li għadu tempju ħaj. Il-fidi li jiċċelebraw dawn l-arazzi għada fidi ħajja.
Għaw ġenerazzjoni sħaħ ta' Maltin u Għawċin li qatt ma raw il-Konkatedral ta' San Ġwan imżejjen b'dan il-kapulavur tal-arti barokka. L-aħħar darba li rajna il-Konkatedral ta' San Ġwan imżejjen b'dawn l-arazzi imprezzabbli minsuġa minsu fuq ħarir pur fi Brussell minn is-sieġ Jacobus de Vos fuq disin tal-artist famuż Peter Paul Rubens kien propju fl-1990.
Il-ġurnata tal-lum hija ġurnata storika. Dawn l-arazzi ġew mogħtija mill-Gran Mastru Ramon Perellos huma l-ħjud tas-suf u l-ħarir li jiżġu flimkien it-tradizzjoni. Huma veru rigal ta' glorja, huma jirrappreżentaw fil-fema tagħna il-quċċata tal-kisba artistika u kulturali u jservu bħala tfakkira tal-qawwa tal-arti u l-kultura biex jispiraw, jollu u jitrasformaw.
Il-kooperazzjoni bejn l-Istat u l-Knisja dejjem tħalli frott kbir.
Dan li qed nagħmlu llum huwa omaġġ mhux biss għall-arti lokali, mhux biss għal Malta, imma għall-kultura Ewropea kollha kemm hi. Dan il-proġett li issa ġie finalizzat kien beda oriġinarjament fl-2006 u tajjeb illi nfakru lil min fl-2006 kien ħadin id-deċiżjoni ringrazzjawhom meta intbagħtu l-ewwel sett ta' arazzi għand il-Manifatturi Rjali id-DeWitt Laboratories fil-Belġju għar-restaw.
Issa li tlesta l-proċess ta' restawr professjonali li ħa 16-il sena matul dawn l-aħħar ġimgħat il-Konkatedral ta' San Ġwan kien tassew bejta ta' attività kontinwa fejn kulħadd tas-sem tiegħu mill-qalb biex il-poplu Malti u barranin jerġa' jgawdi dan il-kapulavur ta' arti Ewropea. Nixtieq nieħu din l-okkażjoni biex nirringrazzja lis-Sinjura Cynthia De Giorgio, il-kuratur tal-Konkatedral ta' San Ġwan. Nixtieq nesprimi l-apprezzament tiegħi u tal-Kunsill tal-Fondazzjoni għad-dedikazzjoni, impenn u determinazzjoni tas-Sur Tonio Mallia, il-kap eżekuttiv u tal-ħaddiema kollha tal-Fondazzjoni li ħadmu b'entużjażmu, dedikazzjoni u professjonalità biex jiġu mdendla l-arazzi mingħajr ma sserilhom ħsara.
Ir-rakkont tal-ħajja ta' Ġesu li dawn l-arazzi jiċċelebraw huwa rakkont li jsejjes il-fidi tagħna li tiċċelebra b'mod ħaj l-Ewkaristija iċċelebrata hawnhekk fit-twaqqif tagħha u fit-trionfi tagħha, imma wkoll li tiċċelebra l-ħajja ta' poplu Nisrani. Aħna hawnhekk qegħdin niċċelebraw glorja li ngħatat fil-passat, imma mhijiex glorja tal-passat. Hija glorja li għandha futur u tama.
The last word is a word of thanks for the organizers of this conference. I mean, we've been planning since October to convene this European conference. I would like to thank Stephen. I would like them to come here also to give them an applause. We would like to thank Stephen, Leander Schembri, Naomi Bayada Young, and Claire Farouja. Would you like please come over? And we thank them. You have received many emails. You were requested to give a lot of information from these organizers. And I'm really thankful to you for what you have done. I thank also the CEO and also the curator, Cynthia De Giorgio, and the CEO, Tonio Mallia. who were also involved in the organization of this conference. I would like also to thank our co-partners in this conference, the Opera della Primaziale Pisana. We are very happy that we have embarked on a common project. If not annually, at least biannually. And I'm looking forward that we continue to consolidate this relationship, share our expertise together, share contacts together, share ideas together. The theme of this conference was decided together in Pisa last October. I think the more we consolidate this networking, the stronger we become and the more effective we become in restorations and conservations of cathedrals. Obviously, as I said, life is a journey, and I'm looking forward from this step to move forward to the next step in Pisa in October, to continue the second part of this conference in Pisa, to continue to reflect on the equilibrium between conservation and spirituality. I thank you all, dear participants, not only participants, but the speakers, but also the local participants. One of the positive points with these two conferences were held in Malta 2 years ago, and this year, hopefully in 2 years' time, we'll hold another conference, is the interest we have created in local restorers and conservators. For this conference, almost 70 restorers, conservators, architects involved in restoration have applied to come. And I am quite happy that we filled up a vacuum in on our local scene in presenting conferences of this sort and bringing you with your expertise to encounter and to meet and to share your knowledge with local conservators and restorers. Knowledge is the best thing you can have in life. That is something which is really priceless. And for this reason, we have been here a group of scholars, of restorers, thinking about that, but we want also to share our knowledge to those who did not have the opportunity to come here. And that's the reason why now we are working on other activities during these coming weeks related to the inauguration of the tapestry, set of tapestries. But one of the targets is to publish as soon as possible the proceedings. Please cooperate with Stephen, with Leander, with Claire, with Naomi, so that you send your papers, work on them with your images you want, so that we can, by the end of September, beginning of October, we have the proceedings published. A comment, we learned a lot, and knowledge is a matter of learning. And I am sure that listening to each other, you might revisit your paper and give it more focus to the theme of the equilibrium between spirituality and conservation. And when you think that this is not focused enough on this theme, go to it and try to revisit it and do your best to have really a common thread in all the papers. I wish you all the best. Those who are traveling tomorrow, safe trip home. Those who are staying here, enjoy Malta and enjoy, hopefully, good weather. It's not usual that we have this weather in May, but I do hope that you enjoy yourself and wish you good luck. Thank you.